Linda a 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 Linda. Elio, please make a Fen and Crowbar song and artist deck. I need a template. I got you. Welcome back, y'all. Elio here, and this time I am playing Fen with Rare Stage. We're playing the stage and I'm really excited about it. I haven't seen anybody running Rare Stage yet, and it was one of the cards I was most excited for coming into the set. I picked Lyra as my faction for the Adventure Pass, precisely because I think all three versions of this card are awesome. And the pink one is surprisingly, I think, the most diverse. There are a ton of artists and songs for you to abuse. Inkcaster with the stage is one of the best things you can be doing. Perpetually returning cards to your hand, turning one of the best Lyra cards in the game into an even better card. Anansi is a ton of stats in Fen, and you can cast it for 2 as many times as you want, but Sap Duende has to be my favorite card in the deck. I'm always looking for opportunities to play Sap Duende, and there isn't a deck that has felt better for it than this one. Duende is the pink hooked in this deck. Sometimes you just move around counters on your side for cheeky lethals, but its ceiling is just absurd, with, again, a draw attached to it. And it loses fleeting with the stage. It is my song of choice. But the songs are really where the deck shines. Twinkle Twinkle can close out games, letting you turn a single Twinkle into a fully slept board on the opponent's side. Acapella Training stalls and gets more counters on the stage, and sometimes just obliterates your opponent's reserve options. Requiem is a great removal spell. You don't love casting it for 3 on the back end multiple times, though sometimes it comes into play. But still, it's a song, so it puts counters onto the stage. For characters, Hather is always good in Fen, though isn't your first target for the stage. Sandman is super solid, and you don't actually hate the 3/3 of value for 2, even though the front side is where the real power is. Ysmir Engraver is another great way to deal with a lot of meta permanents and characters, sometimes more than once. Our reserve gets full, so Contortionist is a great spot holder that doesn't overflow us. Esmeralda does the opposite, but we still love her. And Bassist is just a good value play. Finally, not everything in the deck is a song or spell. Mighty Djinn is not a card I often include in Fen decks, but the stage inherently puts you into positions where you have lots to play, and I wanted to be able to consistently take advantage of my advantage. And the Djinn often helps with this. Getting ahead on mana lets us use our cards, and that lets us win. Martingale is just a great 1-drop whose support ability can smooth things out, and a 1-off Cloth Cocoon helps keep us open to answering things that our smaller removal can't deal with. Finally, our uniques, a Lyra Contortionist that can act as a artist charging character that also can swap some things out from your hand and reserve, which can come in handy in a pinch. A Bliss Fan, which also has this artist charge effect. And then finally, a LCD sound system that puts lots of fleeting on things, can handle permanents. All of these are artists, and they all do little things that can be helpful. That's the deck. Let's jump into some games. Okay, up against Kojo, the classic. I love giving Kojo things fleeting. Well, that's not always true. But I love giving Tiny Djinn fleeting. Haven Sarengar doesn't really matter, and sometimes I just have a Tracer or something. But I like giving him fleeting. So I'm going to keep Inkcaster. I'm going to keep Acapella Training. It gives me a good Inkcaster 1-drop sequence and something to return. And then I'll keep the unique Lyra Cloth Dancer to threaten even more removal, plus the ability to destroy their fantastic permanents in the Mess and Haven. As Freeloader will tell you, there are 3 ways to build Kojo. You can play the Hunger, you can play Landmarks, or you can play neither. And as I will tell you, there are only 2 ways to build Kojo. The third way is wrong. I'll open up with Inkcaster here. I'm going to do it on the right as I want to try to tell them that what is happening is we're slowing down the game because I think I'm going to be better in the late game. And Tiny Djinn is a great follow-up for him to get power, but a great follow-up for us to be able to Acapella Training it and get a little bit of value here. So we go 1-0 to them, but luckily for us, they're just getting a little bit less of an advantage on their mana, and hopefully that's enough for us. Engraver is also a great way to answer their permanents. I'll open up with my own stage, and I can follow that up with Engraver, much better than anything else available to me. We'll go to the left, hope that it's able to take the lane, and maybe eventually we can use it to get rid of this this Bastion. They've got nothing in reserve. They got this Haven out, but we have tons of ability to give him fleeting, which will hopefully be nice if he didn't play something that does not give toot about fleeting, and will start to tear apart our reserve. Not great. Kind of in an awkward mana here. Like, there's not like great plays. For instance, if I wanted to like Cloth Dancer and then maybe he play like that, it doesn't go in any lane because the colors of it are horrible. But I could do that to try to get rid of the Bastion. I could Cloth Dancer and then follow that up with a discounted Engraver to get rid of the Bastion and give fleeting to whatever he puts out, but like we don't take any lanes with that. That feels really awful. I'm just going to Mighty Djinn on the left and hope that that's good enough for us to take grass. And they choose to get rid of, let's see if it's the stage or if they don't want us to advance. They want to pull out a big advantage. They think that they're going to win the long game due to this Garrett, which maybe they do. But it feels pretty decent, them losing mana and us gaining mana. But they're double advancing, and I like the Incaster and I like the Engraver for getting rid of these things. This is never going to have fleeting. We could maybe give it sleep and then Requiem it, which is a lot of work, but if we have sleep, we can also just try to keep it asleep forever. So I'll get rid of the Requiem. We do see the Twinkle, but I'm not sure that the 5 mana get rid of that was really what I wanted to do anyway. They can sabotage this turn, and I'd rather get rid of this Haven while I can. So I'm going to go and play out the Engraver. I won't be able to get stage counters on it, but I can get rid of some of their power. This is a little bit worse if it's, spending 4 mana for only 2 grass, for example. But they don't sabotage this turn. I could stage here, but I could also maybe Twinkle and then stage return Twinkle. So I'm going to Twinkle, put this to sleep. They Bio Wabbit, and we can go ahead and do that. Return the Twinkle to our hand and hopefully double advance here. Another Michael Jordan. What are you going to hit? I could go either side. Going left just intrinsically blocks this, though, so I want to play the MJ out. Push my mana advantage. I arguably could have done Cloth Dancer there first, and then I can Twinkle the Garrett and use that to discount to play for the Mighty Djinn and then get fleeting on the Order Spy. But with these options, I can also Twinkle and Hather and Acapella Training. So this lets me guarantee that I have the Mighty Djinn available to me and it doesn't get bounced or spied. And I can just stall here with an Acapella Training. They erupt again. Now I kind of have 2 options here. I can go Hather, right, Sleep Garrett, but they're also short on mana. And maybe it's good if I'm forcing them to play the Garrett out, and the other option would be to Hather left, sleep the rabbit, and just keep 1 power in play, which doesn't really matter. They both trade a lane. This means that they can't Garrett, but if we sleep this, but this means that they have far less power on board starting the next turn. I end up going with the Fire Rabbit option, though I don't know that that is the best move. But there's also the option of us doing stage Hather and not advancing and just tying here. That may have been the better line out of all 3 of them. I'm really light on characters though, so I'm going to stage this Hather out, which is such a kind of odd thing to do. Third Eruption. Now here, I can either stage or I can Cloth Dancer, but if they're going to play out a character, I'd rather give it fleeting. So I want to play the Cloth Dancer first, which they use their Mana Eruption on. So we're not getting rid of any permanents, we're not giving anything fleeting, but we will just stage Twinkle this Garrett. We'll trade lanes one more time. This turn they won't have the Sabotage available to them. They're extremely light on resources, but they are only one lane away. But we are also on game point, and we have an abundance of Twinkles available to us. But we have no other cards. Like, we have a Martingale, we have a Hather, and a Nazi, which is one of the better reserve hits. They didn't open up with Sabotage, so they're unlikely to have it. We can open up with the stall play of the Martingale. With this, I'm afraid of this being another removal spell. I don't know if that really matters. At this point, I think I know that I'm twinkling this, and I should maybe open up with that with the stage and get a little bit more information. Instead, I play out the Hather to the right to give myself more time to figure out if I want to, I guess, stage the Anansi, but it's not a play that I love back in hindsight. So if we had instead done Twinkle on this, what he has is Pathfinder in hand. Assuming he plays it in this lane, then I don't think it really changes much. Like, we Twinkle that, we stage, or we play Anansi. How many more things do we get? We get 2, 4, 6. We don't get 3 Twinkles in Anansi. We get 2 Twinkles in an Anansi, so it doesn't really matter. Like, we have to Twinkle 2 things here, and we have to play the Anansi. And those 2 things really have to be the Pathfinder and the Garrett, unless we didn't want to go to Tiebreaker. But I think with all of my Twinkles that I prefer being in Tiebreaker even though I don't have anything, because he has 5 mana available, and we're going to put to sleep 3 things. He starts with 2 of them in play, but he doesn't have a lot of outs. No, he doesn't have a lot of mana to actually play outs. I'm also not really sure that we had the firepower to actually go to a tiebreaker. Or go to a not tiebreaker. I think we were kind of forced to do this. They mana us. They have something in hand that they want to play, and they needed the mana for. Gotta open up with the sleep on the Garrett. Get that power out while we can. That power out of the board. Tiny J. Here I'll go ahead and sleep the thing that adds the most power to the board in the Browse Pathfinder, saving our Anansi for last so that if this is a Duel of Grit, that they don't have an opportunity to cast it. It's not Duel of Grit though, it is Mighty Djinn, which we have plenty of power, and we have another sleep, so even if we hadn't gotten this Anansi, just getting a 1/1/1 in power is enough to shut them down. So, yeah. GG. Okay, up against Atsadi, new big guy on the block. I do really love Inkcaster. It's one of the best cards in the deck in Fen, but it's kind of awkward here. Maybe. So I don't like keeping sleep cards early. So Twinkle Twinkle and Sandman are unlikely to be staying here. I actually do kind of like the Requiem. I feel like I can get ahead of Atsadi, and one of the things that worries me is him coming back with a Candy Bar Sokka, and having an answer to that could be important. I don't want to play Inkcaster just for no value. If I'm doing a turn 1 play, I'd rather have Contortionist, which is going to be better for my resources going longer. And I could keep like Requiem, Contortionist, Inkcaster, and the next turn Inkcaster something. But I do also like the card advantage and mana advantage of Mighty Djinn to keep me on an even playing field. The right thing to do here may be like Requiem, Contortionist, Inkcaster, or maybe I'm being too Candy Bar brained, energy bar brained. I keep this Requiem and I should do like Jin, Contortionist, Incaster. But I'm going to keep Contortionist, Requiem, MJ, and I'll open up with a Contortionist. Unique Fiery Rabbit. I open up with the Sarengar. I could MJ here on the mountain, but I can also maybe threaten a double advance. So if I do MJ, he's going to likely double advance. But I can kind of do the same by going Sandman right, which he's not going to be able to match. And then if he doesn't play something on the left, I can play the Contortionist, so it's kind of awkward for him. So I'm going to do that instead. This water lines up nicely with what he's trying to compete right now. And unique number 2. Looking to draw cards. All right, so now I don't need to play the Contortionist out. I can't advance with it anyway. I'll just take a 1-for-1 here. That's both of our Sandmen. Duende and our unique Contortionist. So the charge ability this isn't used for right now, but it does also have a swap ability. And I can put the Jin in reserve, which will now make it cost 3, letting me do Contortionist Jin. So at least I can ramp this turn while putting power into 2 different lanes. These 2 play a little awkwardly for him. Not like super awkwardly, it's fine. But I think that that's really my best play. Like, my hand's kind of awkward right now. If I kept the Incaster, things would maybe be a bit smoother. And maybe also last turn I switched to Jin and let him be 1 further on the lanes. But this is the move that we're at, so I'm going to do the Contortionist play. Swap out this Contortionist for a Mighty J. They play this in the right lane, which does just let us go left. And they use the opportunity to ramp, so we will still just be going 1-for-1 here. You know, every turn, Fen gets about half a card of advantage. And, you know, Atsadi's going to be drawing some cards, so if they draw 2 to 3 cards, they already basically make up for the advantage that Fen gets, and they get more choice out of doing it. Underrated hero. Okay, so I do want to Esmeralda this turn and see more of my options available to me. I'd rather push as Atsadi has a better late game. So rather than putting in the lane where it blocks this really well, I'm going to put it on the right where it advances fairly well and see what I get out of it. A milk here. I don't know if I'm going to want these discounts available to me. I may want them both. So that kind of just puts me into the Contortionist play as like the best thing to do here. Twinkle Twinkle may be something I eventually want to do on this. Like I could Contortionist and Twinkle this, and he doesn't get the draw, and I do get the advance, but we'll see. They do a mana channeling, which means there's not much left that can be going there. I can play the Martingale on the left, and then depending on what the follow-up is, maybe I play the Incaster, maybe I play the Twinkle. But this Tiny Jin coming down here is actually like so delicious because I get to Sap Duende it, meaning that it does go away forever, it is fleeting, it doesn't turn into mana, and I will be both blocking and advancing on the left if he doesn't have another play. So Sap Duende is very insane here. It takes a 2-1 into a 2-0 swap. Yes, and they don't have another card to follow up with, which isn't terribly surprising at 1 mana in Atsadi, and we are now on a potential lethal threatening turn. This is the hunger turn. But we've got a lot of power. We obviously have a big Anansi here, but as said, this is the hunger turn, and they have a Archelana Milk. So I'd really like to keep this Twinkle available and all the characters in hand available to counter hunger turn. So rather than get my bigger Anansi, I'm just going to play out something from my reserve, starting with the Esmeralda, which will block and advance for us here. They play another Tiny Jin. They still have the mana for Hunger, and that may be their follow-up play. So rather than playing a character or wasting any time before they make their move, it's good for me to Duende this Tiny Jin and remove any mana advantage that they would get from this. Plus draw a card and just see a little bit more of what's going on. and it is Hunger. It'll be big, it'll be fleeting. With the Twinkle Twinkle, we'll be able to fight over, or take at least one lane. We'll open up with the Esmeralda, though, as that lets us see what we get, which is actually an incredible pull, because with this and the discount from Twinkle Twinkle, we can actually play into both lanes and win this turn. So we were in a really strong position here either way with the Twinkle available to us, but this was just brutal as we pull out the win. Some really killer Duendes and Twinkle there to make what could have been a close game into an absolute blowout. And GG. Okay, Basira, winner of the WCQ EU. A lot of things I like here. Love to open up with the stage, love an Inkcaster in the hand, and I don't want to get rid of both my Anansis. It's one of the best things in terms of putting power on the board, so I'll keep one of the Anansis. And we'll use the Hathers in one of the Anansis. We are going first, which I think either way we're probably opening up at this stage, but because we can also just be pretty easily countered in whatever we put there, they play a Chiron or a Blade Dancer and put extra counters on it, and we just lose a character. So we open up with the stage, and if they can play two things, they get two lanes, otherwise they just get one. But we get our stage starting, so that's nice. Inkcaster in hand is cool. We can double Inkcaster this turn, and it's like we drew cards. We'll save the Sandman for next turn when they are probably advancing on the left there. But we will play our Inkcaster left. But no, we'll go right. Sorry, we go right. If we had gone left, then we potentially do like a fight over the left. They do play out Grems, which is unfortunate because that means our stage is going to go bye-bye. But we will just play the Inkcaster to return both of them to our hand and get a counter on the stage. Though, that being said, we'll actually pick up the Sandman so we can get potentially some sleep value out of it. But because this is such a good Sandman lane, there's an argument for just picking up both Inkcasters. I don't like sleeping this early, so maybe just using this for its power would have been the better move and keep our Inkcasters in hand. Alas, the ability to get the actual value of this was too tempting, and so we picked it up. Here, they are likely to play a Grems this turn, but if they for some reason don't, then we can stage and get value out of it, but I don't know that that's going to happen. It's probably best for me to open up with Inkcaster on right, as that seals this off from the Grems, and leaves more mana open, but that means that if they do like a sabotage, that my Anansi is smaller, but I don't think I should be super worried about that. I think I should open up with Inkcaster on the right, but to make sure it's as big as it can be, I go Anansi left, which is where I expect to be playing it, but I think that tips my hand like a little more than I need to. Alas, he does that. I'll play out the Inkcaster from hand, and if they play anything worth acapella training, which they play a unique that is capable of ramping them, so I'm going to use the Inkcaster to acapella train, get rid of that, and return the Anansi to hand with the other Inkcaster. The sequencing here didn't end up terribly mattering. If they had followed this up with a Grems on the left and then that, like I'm not winning the left lane either. But still not sure if that's like the sequencing I would have preferred in hindsight. We do see another stage, which I would love to develop. And they don't open up with an Auklet, so we're likely able to play some things this turn, but I'll open up with a stage so we can start getting counters on it. They use the Basira ability, which makes it less likely that they're going to have another boost effect from hand. They could have some sort of removal, but I'll open up with the Esmeralda, my least appetizing target, first on the left, already blocking them. And it's an Ozma to draw a card. We can go Esmeralda left again, which, raises the question of whether or not I should have done the one from hand first, as that would let us know if we had more options. And if we had done that, we could have actually done Inkcaster discount into Mighty Djinn. But I did the one from reserve because I wasn't actually sure if this is what I was going to be following up with. But I think that with what I had available to was a likely thing. So playing the one from hand, given that, may have been smoother. Now, though, we're forced to discard the Esmeralda from reserve, and we don't get to block them on either lane, on the right lane, and we don't advance on the left lane, finding ourselves in a worse and worse spot. Now, they just drew extra card with Ozma. The likelihood that they're seeing Auklet here is going up and up. I'd like to use my reserve while I can, so I'm actually going to play out the Mighty Djinn and hopefully force an advance on the left, but it's going to be tough for us to stop them on either lane without using the Sandman this turn. If I go Contortionist right here, though, and they haven't dropped Auklet yet, then I can potentially Inkcaster Sandman. So I'll do that. I'll do Contortionist on the right. And I have two options here. I can stage Inkcaster, which is currently blocking, though they'll just Chiron, Ozma, and double advance again, but I at least get some stage value out of it while I can. Alternatively, I could Sandman on really either lane, presumably the left, and that also won't be enough, because if we Sandman here, we'll have 3 water, and Chiron with the Haven. The Haven just makes so much power come on the board, so the Sandman's not stopping anything this turn, so I might as well just Inkcaster, which will make them play out their reserve. But we're in a rough spot. We're going to be advancing 1 here, and they're going to be 1 away, so we're currently at 3-6. 7 points to win. Go to mana with the Mighty Djinn, though, give ourselves more options. And turn the Contortionist to hand. Duende is a great draw, though. With this Blade Dancer, it will eliminate that as a threat and hopefully let us steal a lane. Mess opens up. Either going to open up with Contortionist or Anansi, just to be wary of any sabotage. I'll open up with the Anansi on the left. I am more wary of sabotage than removal, which may be the wrong way to think. I need to get more familiar with these Basira lists. They've got a lot of power on the right. They're keeping the Blade Dancer small right now so that it'll still not have fleeting next turn. We could either use the stage on the eventual Duende or on, for example, the Inkcaster right now. The chances that if I put the Duende in reserve that I actually get to use it, though, are not amazing. They would need to play things out to have power on them and for them to still not yet hit Auklet. And we haven't seen Auklet yet, which means that it's got to be coming. So saving this Duende for that reason seems less valuable than me returning something to hand with the Inkcaster. So I'll use the stage now, play the Inkcaster out, and it is a Chiron. They have all their power pretty split, but Sap Duende is going to be a 8 power swing, and we draw a card. Pretty good effect for 2 mana. And we take 2 points. Now we are both on game point. The game is achievable again. This Blade Dancer goes back to their reserve with very bad stats. They 3 mana, 2/2/2, even with the Haven. But not horrible, all things considered. Get rid of this Cloth Cocoon, though. Trading 3 for the best 3 mana. I don't know, it's kind of awkward. Okay. This is a very difficult turn. I likely want to use the basis this turn in order to get a lot of power. I have the Anansi, I have the Sandman, I have discount from the Inkcaster. Esmeralda gets us resupply. Martingale is a good 1 mana stall play. Our opponent is more and more likely to finally have an Auklet, and they have plenty of mana to do it and to do other things. Plus they have this mess available, which if they play an Auklet from reserve, we'll exhaust 3 different things. If we want to play this Anansi, we want big things in our reserve, or a big amount of cards in our reserve, which means we don't want to play things from it early, but that may be particularly greedy if what we're worried about is Auklet, and maybe we should actually use this Incaster discount early so that we have all the mana that we want to do all of our fun things. However, what exactly would that look like? So we have 2 mana, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then maybe if they exhausted to see if we like discount with Incaster, then they probably exhaust Bassist and this, and like this isn't something we super want to play. I'd love to see one more turn and like see what the Esmeralda hits. So I open up with the Esmeralda on the right. It is a Requiem. Their mess hits a Duel of Grit. And there's the Auklet. They hit the 2 bases. I think here, especially since the Chiron is here and can exhaust another thing, which is honestly something that I missed, that the best thing to do from this position may be to like discount Incaster Contortionist and then stall out until we play Sandman second to last card and a Nazi final card. But I don't see that line, and instead just stall out a little bit with the Martingale on the right, leaving open our Sandman on the left for an eventual play to do this Auklet, assuming that he's going to think he's fighting over this lane. Or, well, he should know that the Sandman's in hand, but we've got to bolster our power on the right, and I'll do it with the cheapest play available. Anything this hits, whether or not it's the Contortionist or the Incaster, kind of closes out our reserve from us, which is why doing that discount play would have potentially been pretty good. But it also does mean that the Anansi is too smaller, but it's coming out sooner now, which means the Duel of Grit is likely going to be able to hit it. So yeah, I play the Sandman here and sleep the Auklet. They play Chiron, they have exactly Duel of Grit available. We play the Anansi out, and they Duel of Grit it, but we're getting rid of all of our resources this turn, so we're in a bad spot. And looking back at our discount lines, if we had done this Incaster Contortionist play, then this would have been the Sandman turn. Contortionist would have been out here on the right side. And the best thing that they don't really have a good Duel of Grit target. They could duel the Sandman, but then the Sandman himself just comes out. Well, no, that wouldn't be. I mean, then the Anansi still comes out, and it's going to beat whatever lane he goes into. So definitely being more aggressive with the Incaster there, rather than trying to have more power with the Anansi would have been better. But the ability to get additional exhaust is something that I need to get more familiar with coming out of Basira. We're still alive. We go to tiebreaker. We only keep 2 cards. I'm going to keep things that are big. I'm probably only going to be able to play one of them because this is going to get a counter on it from the Chiron. So that's probably going to be the Anansi. Actually, I may not be able to play any of them depending on what I get from reserve, because with Basira they'll get 2 things. And they're first, so we'll see what they exhaust. They hit Twinkle and Bliss, which makes it seem like they have removal in hand because they're leaving Anansi available to us. So with that in mind, like we want to keep the Anansi as our very last play, which means we sleep the Auklet, they play a character, we stage sleep something, they play another character, we'll use our final sleep on it, and we'll just hope that they're out of mana at that point. Which should be the case. They're gonna have to play 2 things here. They could have 1-drop, 2-drop duel. It's less likely. There's a 2-drop, which will Twinkle here and hope that they don't play a 1-drop and just really scare us. But it's the Grems, and we have a 4/4/4 Nazi. So we will take the closest game of our lives, and we can go to the replay from their perspective, see what they had in hand. Duel of Grit. Feels good, man. Feels good. Those are the games. Thank you again for watching. I will probably not have any more gameplay videos before the next set, but I'm really excited about our first new heroes, and I will be back as soon as that comes out to show you my favorite things. So until next time, I'm Elio. Thanks.